Welcome back to Me First with your host, Drew, the resident jokester with a heart of gold, and Amanda, optimistic space cadet who sees opportunity everywhere. We dive deep into everything from navigating love and family to crushing your business goals, all with a heaping helping of conversation and good humor. So make sure you subscribe and join the Me First fam. New episodes drop 3 weeks out of every month on the second, third, and fourth Thursday. Want to know more about a specific topic? Let us know in the comments. Welcome back to Me First. I'm Amanda. So excited to have you here. I'm here with Drew today. And as always, I'm super excited about this topic. The topic that we're discussing today can be a little bit heavy, but it's a necessary topic and subject matter to talk through with yourself and to learn about and talk through with friends, family, and loved ones. So join us today as we talk about grief. Drew has put together a killer show for us today, so I'm gonna kick it over to you, Drew.
Killer is a strong word, but we are gonna get it done. Grief is definitely an important topic. I think something that people struggle with, that people often don't want to talk about because it's heavy.
Yeah.
It's heavy. I've experienced quite a bit of it in my life, and I don't even think I really realized until maybe my late 30s and 40s how much it really impacts your life. If you really don't, I think, understand it, or recognize it. So I think today's topic is important, to kind of dig in, maybe give some people some understanding, help some folks if we can.
Yeah, because I think, if anyone's anything like me, you might have a tendency to avoid your grief.
Yeah.
And it can pile on, you avoid grief from, whether it's a loss of a person, a relationship, an experience, something that you thought was yours, and they just pile on top of each other.
Yeah.
And as we know, when piles get too high, they fall over.
That's it. Come toppling down. It's like you think you can escape from it, but really you can't. It just kind of lives with you, and you have to just learn how to maneuver through it. But today we'll try to identify some of those things and give some tips on how to cope. And when it gets too heavy, you can always reach out for help. So dig into it. All right. So I think one of the most important things I think for people is just to understand what grief is. I think it helps to recognize when you're experiencing it, if you know what it is. It goes a little bit beyond the normal sadness. It just kind of lingers. If you've ever kind of experienced that. The Mayo Clinic, they define grief as a strong, sometimes overwhelming emotion for people, regardless of whether their sadness stems from loss of a loved one or from a terminal diagnosis, or maybe just from losing a relationship, someone that they loved. So again, you just kind of feel, I think, almost numb maybe from the situation. You just don't know how to process the emotion, what to do with the emotion that you feel.
Yeah.
So it can be a tough place to maneuver for sure. When I went through, I think my first kind of memory of going through grief, which I don't know that I really was able to recognize it then, was when my mom passed away when I was 6. At 6, people die, but you don't know, like, when they're dead, and they're just not coming back.
Yeah.
They have that, I think, understanding.
That's a lot for a 6-year-old to process.
Definitely. So, I was just kind of, going on with life. Oh, where's mom? Oh, she's, wherever. It's like, oh, okay, cool. And as I got older and, you start to understand, okay, this person's not coming back. And, you go through different milestones in your life. And, you see kids and they have their moms and they're doing these different things. And it's like, dang, you missing out. Now you understand.
Yeah.
This hurts. I don't have this person. I didn't get to experience this part of life. And I think for me, I went through probably all the stages, that they would define as grief, which would be, I think you go through a denial stage. it's not real, you know? Maybe they are
Hmm.
coming back. You know, maybe they just went on vacation, you know, and that would be
Yeah,
more
what does this person know who's telling me that they're gone forever? Like, what do you
exactly.
know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's like, no, no, they'll be back, you know, or feeling angry. You know, I know in my teenage years, I definitely felt some anger, particularly, you know, when people were doing things with their parents and it's like, or their moms, and I'm like, all right, you know, cool. I don't have my mom,
Yeah.
can't celebrate those things. You know, you don't really understand, I guess, those dynamics, things like that, because I just didn't have that experience. You know, some people use bargaining. Some people go through deep depression, and then I think, you know, finally you have to get to a place of acceptance. Um, and you know, once you get to acceptance, the grief doesn't go away. You just kind of learn to live with it and maneuver through it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
So so is grief like it's more than just missing the person or the thing or the experience or the relationship. It's it's missing everything that could have been also,
absolutely.
or like recognizing that, or coming to terms with, or the challenge of coming to terms with, you will not have everything that was to be. That's tough. Like
And it
that's
happens
a
in
lot.
different areas. You know, we spoke about, you know, death, but it could be a career, you know, it could be
Mm-hmm.
anything, you know, relationships, people get divorced, you know. I know people who have gotten divorced 20 years ago and their grief is so heavy that they're still living in that space and they just cannot move forward for whatever reason. You know, they just haven't learned to
Yeah.
work through it. You know, it may not ever go away, but you have to learn how to maneuver through that so that you can continue on with your life. Otherwise, you're just kind of stuck in this dark place and you can't see outside of that situation that you feel like you missed out on.
Yeah. Man, that made me think of, there was a time I thought I was going to be a chef forever,
Mm-hmm.
or I thought I was going to work in the restaurant industry forever.
Yeah.
And when I made the decision to not do that anymore, I remember, one, the disbelief in people who knew me. Like, what do you mean you're not going to cook? I'm like,
Yeah.
I can cook at home. I'm not going to cook for a
Right.
living.
Right.
But there was always still that little bit of like, that's part of my identity. Or it was. And then, thinking about it makes me think back to our episode on passion and purpose of, where would I be now if I
Yeah.
had continued, on that path. And so there's a little bit of, there was a grieving process that went with
Yeah.
deciding to exit that industry.
Yeah.
Even though, towards my end in that industry, I was more so in the sales, leadership, management side of the business anyways.
Yeah.
But I was always still so close to, I would jump in the kitchen sometimes, or, when need be, or whatever it might
Yeah.
have you. So I never really thought of that experience as a grieving process, but I think it actually kind of was. I had to get to a place where I accepted that my path was no longer going
Yeah.
on that road.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I shared with you about, you know, when I transitioned from, you know, my retail career, it was tough to sit
Yeah.
and not maneuver. And, you know, I was at this place for 15 years and it's like, what do I do now? I don't know
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
so long. And it was just tough to kind of see anything outside of that. And I thought for a long time about going back because I was just like, I don't know that I can do anything else. This is the path. But you know, eventually I was able to work through it. But you do have to go through that space of just saying, okay, I did it. I've made a decision to move forward. Let's grieve it, accept it, and move on. But it took
Mm.
me a minute to get there. It was tough. So I
Yeah.
definitely can relate to that type of transition for sure.
Huh. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, I know. You think because I think people think that grief it relates to like relationships and death only, but
Death.
you
Uh-huh.
can grieve anything that you perceive to be a loss to you. You know, and people. Some people grieve their cars. You know, you see some people they have these cars they put all this money into, and uh oh.
Mm.
Did you have a car? Something happened.
Oh man. My first car, powder blue, royal blue interior, 1986 Cadillac Seville slumpback. And that car was my everything.
Yeah.
It like I loved that car, and it was constantly needing work. You know, I bought it from like a junkyard on 40th Street and the university. He had it, you know, up there for sale, like he's selling it for like $900. I think I took my granddaddy. We got it for like $765,
Nice.
and I had that car for years, and I mean, to the point where it broke down, and I would have it towed if I moved like to somewhere else, and then I would, and then I, you know, we rebuilt the engine, me and my old friend Mario, and after I had Marcus, I had him. He was probably a couple months old,
Yeah.
and I went outside to go somewhere, and it wouldn't start, and I was just like, it was always something, and
Hmm.
it never had air conditioning, and in that moment I just had this recognition of like, I have a baby, this can't be
Right.
my baby. Like, it was a money pit is what it
Right.
was.
Right.
And
This can't be my baby.
so yeah, I was like, I have a baby now, this can't be my baby anymore.
Right.
And being the drastic person that I am, I called Mac, McIntyre Auto, different junkyard that's on the south side for years. If anybody's from the south side, Phoenix, you know Mac. If you don't know Mac, you're not from the south side. Um, and so I called him, and because I would go up there to pull parts. And I remember one time I went up there and all I needed was a dipstick. And he was like, okay, give me a few minutes. He was like on a bunch of phones, and I went out and it was raining and I was wandering in the yard. I found a dipstick from an Eldorado, and I came back and I was like, how much for this? And he's like, did you go out there and pull that yourself, girl? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, you can have it. What the? And then, like, you know, that's how. But I called him and told him to pick it up. I said, come pick it up. He said, how much do you want for it? I said, I don't want anything for it. Just come pick it up. I can't
Really?
have this.
It
Yeah,
just
I told him just come pick it up. Uh-huh. And then I
nice.
also I removed every Cadillac emblem and symbol, and I also cut the Cadillac symbols out of the leather. But that was, you know, not quite that healthy. But I did, and but it was a grieving process when that car was gone, because I was like, that's my car, that was my baby. And so, sorry, you we might have to cut that out, but I might edit that out. But that triggered something in me.
I
Like,
see. You got
mm,
serious about that. You was like, I gotta talk about this car.
oh man.
That's all good. We love a good story. Ah. So before I spoke about the five stages of grief, so I did want to dig into those just a little bit. I think so people just have an understanding of what they all kind of mean. Um, when I went through my mom passed, I did a little bit of counseling, and this was one of the processes that you go through. You talk about these things and understand just kind of what each stage means. So when it comes up, you can try to identify and just say, okay, this is where I'm at with this. So first stage being denial, and that's what they identify as the first stage of grief. So basically, state of shock, you go numb, wonder can you go on. Um, you're just trying to figure out how to get through each day. You don't know where to start, where to end. Just have just no clue kind of what you're doing. So next stage is
Lost.
anger. Yeah, absolutely. Anger is the next stage. I think and again, I think these steps are on the journey to healing. So it's not necessarily a bad thing that you're experiencing these things. I do think it's on the way. As long as you can move through them in a healthy way, I think they're on a journey to healing. So anger, you may, if you're spiritual, you may question God, you may, lash out at others, you may not want to engage. There could be a lot of things that kind of come with that anger phase. When, my mom passed, as I got older, I felt sometimes angry with her that she died. And so I had to work through that. So, it could come in definitely many forms. The
Yeah.
next one is bargaining, which I thought was pretty interesting. A lot of it is spiritual based kind of. It's almost a bargaining with God. If you give me this back, I won't ever do XYZ again.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's like most times that's not going to work, but
Yeah.
we understand why people do it. You kind of grasping at straws, but that is one of, um, the stages. Particularly, I think for people that sometimes feel guilty, I've done this. So if I can just correct this and make this right, maybe I can win on this side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of it
And
I think also comes with the disbelief,
yeah, for
when
sure.
I have a friend who passed unexpectedly in 2019, and I remember like being in complete disbelief, and then also kind of sitting with like, well, what if, you know, what if I do this or what if I do that?
Yeah.
Particularly when, I was with her in the hospice,
Hmm.
at the end,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, I remember talking to her like, quit playing around, like
Yeah.
this joke has actually gone a little too far,
Right.
like I already talked to God said you can come back, and kind
Hmm.
of that disbelief coupled with that bargaining of like, if there has to be something I can do to
Yeah.
make this not be the
Right.
reality that
Yeah.
I'm living.
Sure. For sure. So the next one is going to be depression. So, depression, just feelings of being empty, kind of withdrawing. I think you're just kind of in a fog, just kind of on autopilot for some people. Some people just completely break down and can't function. And then you have your functioning people who are depressed, who get up and go to work and they, do a lot of things that people would commend, but deep down
Mm-hmm.
inside, they're just kind of lost. They don't know
Yeah.
which direction they're going. Yeah. And so, depression is a tricky one because I think some people have, and I think we're learning now that it doesn't always look like what we think it looks like. Some people you may see them and they're just happy. They went to work yesterday and they bought a new car last week, and then a couple weeks down the road, we hear something different. So I think we have to be
Mm-hmm.
careful, with depression for sure because it can look a lot of ways.
Yeah, I always think of Robin Williams. You know, a lot of people have their different celebrities,
Yeah,
that meant something to them. For me, Mrs. Doubtfire and Hook are two of my like all-time,
yeah,
favorite movies. And Robin Williams he was just a spirit,
yeah,
like he was, but ultimately he was not happy.
right,
And and I always liked the reminder that sometimes the people who are the most depressed or the least happy spend their time trying to make other people happy, possibly because they know what it feels like to not be happy, and
yeah,
they don't want anyone to feel how they're feeling.
yeah.
So we have, there's that saying, or people be saying like, check on your strong friends, because they're not always as strong as you think they are.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I definitely think that, is a misconception people have that, you know, because you wear it well. Sometimes with strong people, you wear it well. I'd rather just be to myself. And, some people wear it outwardly. The strong people, they kind of, take it in and you just carry it and you just go on with your day, but it's like when it's too much, it's just too much, so
Yeah.
I totally get it. Right. And then the next one is acceptance. And finally, this is just kind of the place where it may not be great, but it's all right. And we gonna get through it. Maybe the
Yeah.
outcome wasn't what you wanted. Maybe it's not what makes you overly happy, but it's okay. And we'll just get through it and we grow from this place. So
So acceptance isn't everything's perfect now.
no, no.
Acceptance isn't everything's great now.
Mm,
It is what it is, or what it
and we're
was,
gonna be all right.
and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. And I'm gonna be all right. So I'm gonna see the other side of this thing and we're just gonna keep going. That's all that is. So I like that phase. It's a tough place to get to sometimes, depending on what the circumstances are. You know, I death is particularly hard And for me, because I've dealt with so much of it in my life, I almost feel like at this stage I'm a little numb to it because I've just seen so much of it. I don't
Mm.
find myself overly emotional when people pass away now. But, in my younger years, I don't even think I was overly emotional then, but the inside turmoil, I think, is what caused me the most grief. Missing
Mm.
people, every mother figure that I had growing up, they were all dead by the time I was 25 years old. I had three people. So I had my mother, my grandmother, and then my aunt. So those
Yeah.
my mother, my grandmother's children. Um, yeah, everybody was gone by the time I was 25 years old, and I was just like, goodness, So it was,
Man. Yeah.
yeah, it was tough, And as I got older, you get married and you do different things, and you want to share these things, and it's like, dang, or even just when I hear people say, oh, I called my mom today, and my mom was like, she gave me this great advice, and I'm like, yeah, I can do this. I love that
Cool.
for them. I
Yeah.
do, but it's like,
Yeah.
man, I wish on my tough days, I could pick up the phone and I could say, Mom, I'm struggling today. Help me out. So it's you still go through those things, even and I think it's gotten worse as I've gotten older because the milestones are so big now. As a kid,
Yeah.
you're just having a good time, everybody show up for
Yeah.
you, they got the balloons, you're having a good time. But as you get older, you don't have as many people around, everybody's not all involved anymore. And so
Yeah.
you just like, dang, all right, I'm just out here, cool. So yeah, it's a
Mm.
tough place, but you learn to get through it and keep it moving.
Does it ever do you ever get like frustrated with people when they're kind of like, oh, I was talking to my mom and this and that, or my going, my grandma said this, or
Yeah,
or I'm out over here cooking with, such and such. Like, does it ever,
I'm not frustrated. No,
or
because
like angry with them, or like,
no, 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 no. Because I want everybody to experience that. Like when my grandmother was alive, when I tell you she loved me down bad, okay, it was nothing in this world that she was not going to do for me. So I'm like, I want everybody to be able to have that kind of family love, that kind of family experience. It just makes you remember that that's just a loss that you took. And
yeah,
I said that never mad that somebody else has that, happiness in their life. But so I
yeah,
think it deserves that for sure. But it's just a reminder.
yeah,
You see things and you're just like, oh, all right, I wish I had that, but it's all good. And then you just have to remember, I think, to put yourself in the mind frame that I have other things that I have to be grateful for that maybe,
yeah,
I just say, okay, I have this, I have that. I'm good. And I'm thankful, like, the people coming up that did raise me, they gave me the tools that I needed to be okay when they were gone. So I'm
yeah,
good. Yeah. Yeah. And so I just try to
yeah.
reflect. I'm good.
That's awesome, and that's, as a parent, I can definitely say that, you know, I think that's, as a parent, that is always one of our biggest fears. I don't care who, who the parent is. If you're a
Mm-hmm.
parent and you love your kids, you're constantly, whether overtly or covertly, thinking about, are they going to be okay when I'm not
Yeah.
around?
Yeah.
Because anything could happen any day. You know that you're not going to be around forever,
Right.
and you want them to be okay,
Yeah.
mentally, emotionally, physically good.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Totally. Yeah, it was man. Yeah, I will have to have another show so I can tell y'all how my grandmother spoiled me to no end. It was bad.
Yeah, I've gotten a few stories.
You know what I mean? It was bad. And then when she died, I had moved my aunt. She reeled it in real fast. She said, "Listen up,
She's like, hold up,
wrap this thing
it's
up."
not that's not life.
Yeah, she said, "I'm gonna tell you
Just so
right
you know.
now." And I mean, one of the first things she said to me was, she said, "I'm gonna teach you everything you need to know to take care of yourself." She said, "Because I'm not gonna always be here." It was one of the first things she said to me when it came under her custody, and she did. And so, I am what I am today because she was like, "This is what it's got to be." I had
Yeah,
wash the dish. I was like, do what? My grandmother would never.
What you want me to do with this?
Like,
Put my hands in that dirty water. Are you kidding me?
I'm talking about my grandmother was gonna pay somebody to come clean my room. Like it never. And yeah, mom, you doing it? Like this living here is ghetto.
I don't like this. That's so funny.
Yeah, but it, you know it's good. It's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
taught you up.
yes, that she did. So you know that's that grief. It's the 5 stages, but it's definitely not a there's not a checklist to go down. It's not an easy,
Yeah.
I think, to tell people how to navigate grief. And I think sometimes people make that mistake of trying to tell people how to do it. You just got to let people go through it in their own way because everybody's different. And you know, what's heavy to
Mm-hmm.
me may not be heavy for you. We just differ in that way. So you have to let people
Yeah.
process how they need to. Um, you know, coping with grief is is tough. Reaching out for help, I think having a village, having people and you know family, friends to support. If you don't have that available, you know I recommend people find a tribe if they can. If not, get professional help. Do something, you know, because it really helps to be able to, I think, speak about some of the things that you struggle when you just internalize everything. I mean, it can make you physically sick. And I think people don't really realize how much it can do to the body just to take it all in, never let it out. It'll have you hurt bad.
Well, and you know, from my own personal experience, I can say that I historically am an internalizer. I, will try to deal with whatever is happening on my own. I'm a very private person. I, don't really talk about, my life or my relationships or, whether they're romantic or otherwise, right?
Yeah.
And at some point, I think you get to a point, I know I did, where like I was talking about earlier, it's, this on top of this, on top of this, on top of this, on top of
Yeah.
this. You know, it's it topples over.
Yeah.
And if you aren't able to reach out to whoever or however you need to do it in a healthy way, you're going to do it in a very unhealthy way. Whether that's self-medicating or isolating or both, which is not a good combo.
Right. That's all.
And that's all bad. And I can definitely say that, you know, I remember when my granddaddy died, I had just, so he, May, so like 3 months of sobriety under my belt. And I remember all I could think about was like, I need to get through this without drinking. Like that's really like all I could think about. And, when Alicia died, I was in just shock and disbelief for so much, but it was like, went to the funeral, cried at the funeral, and, cried in the car, that,
Yeah.
and then it was just kind of like, okay, like, I remember telling myself, like, you got to get it together. Like, you can't just break down, and then when my uncle passed last year, I think that was the first time where I actually like stopped, and like paused. I was like,
Yeah.
and I know these are all deaths that I'm talking about, but eventually, if you have a bunch of grief that you haven't dealt with, eventually there's going to be an event that happens where you're going to be dealing with it all
Mm-hmm.
at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's hard and it's confusing and it's painful. You ever cry and it hurt, like you're stuck, like you feel it's like all, you can't stop, you can't breathe, all that, and you're dealing with like everything
Yeah.
at once.
Yeah.
So you got to learn how to get through those events individually
Mm-hmm.
because it's going to be a lot better. And not to say that there's an end, like a beginning and end to grief,
Right.
but you can't just ignore it and push on. And I think
Yeah.
that was my MO, is just push forward, be the strong person,
Yeah.
and but really I wasn't being strong, I was just hiding.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of us have that MO. I was that way for a long time. I'm just like, no, I got it. I'm good. Whatever. I don't care. Even with my dad, shout out to my dad. We're all good now. But for a long time, he wasn't a part of my life. And I was like, whatever. I don't care. And when he reached out to me umpteen years later, I
Mm-hmm.
was stuck for a second. I'm like, do I want to talk to this man? What do I do? Do I want to deal with him? And he came around, and we were able to communicate, and I think kind of reconcile. But I was on the fence, like maybe I'm mad still. Like
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
my mind, I didn't care. For years when we didn't speak, I'm like, I don't care. You don't
Mm-hmm.
want to be my dad. My mom died. Whatever, you left me. Cool, bro. Live your life. I don't care. And then when I saw him, I was like, nah, bro, I'm mad. I'm
Mm-hmm.
mad.
Yeah,
Like, you
no,
left
I'm
me.
I'm
You know
mad.
what I'm saying?
I actually do
Yeah,
care, and the
yeah,
care is anger, and you can kick
exactly.
rocks.
And it's
Yeah.
like, but all these years have passed. It's like, so do I waste the time being mad, or do we make the best of what we have right now? So I chose to just make the best of what we have right now, but I had to sit with that, and I had to make some choices. And he may see this one day, so I love you, Dad. We good. But I had to say, am I going to take this to him? Because there were some things I felt like I wanted to say. Like I wanted him to know how bad I hurt, how it made me feel when you weren't around, when I didn't have my mom. And I'm so thankful to the people that raised me, but I had a parent that was here, that helped bring me to this
Mm-hmm.
world, that checked out on me. And I'm like, that was a grief that I just ignored for years, and I didn't feel it until my late 30s. And it hit me hard.
Mm.
And I
Dang.
went to visit him, and when I went to the house, love his house, love his life, love the family, okay? Love everybody. So I'm saying this because I don't want anybody to get the wrong impression. We are okay. But this is my truth. This is my life, how it happened. When I went there, I noticed my absence. There are no pictures. There's small pictures of me from when he saw me, maybe when I was like 18 or 17. But
Mm-hmm.
my brother and my sister, they have big pictures on the wall of their graduations, just because they've had life with him. And
Yeah,
but you
that's
can tell
life.
that
Yeah.
my absence, you can feel it there. And I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to
Hmm.
sit in that for a second. I was just like, okay, do you bring this to the table, or are we moving on? And I don't even know if that's the right decision. Should it be something I say, or should it
Yeah.
something let it go? But I'm like, my goal is not to hurt him. It's not. So I'm just like, you know, we move on. And maybe that's not the healthiest way, but it's just what I'm gonna do for right now. I just want us
Yeah.
to make the best of it. But it definitely made me realize it was something that I had not processed for years. I just ignored it and let it go until I was faced with it. And that's often how it happens. Until it hits you right in the face. You just ignore
Oh
it.
yeah.
Yeah, and then when it hits you, you're like, damn, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
It's a
And
tough one.
it's tough because you're in the moment
Yeah.
trying to, every decision affects your life, small or big, but you're in the moment trying to make the right decision, but also you're in the midst of all of these feelings,
Yeah.
in the and some of them are not recognizable. Like I don't have a label on that feeling. I
Right.
don't have a label on that feeling. And I, yesterday I was in a session and broke out a feelings wheel on my phone because, well, how do you feel about that? I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, is it sad,
Let me
anger,
see.
anxiety? What is it? Is it disgust? Like,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
what is that feeling? And then when you can't label the feeling, I think it makes it harder to work through it
Yeah.
because you don't know what you're working through.
Yeah.
It's just, I feel not good about this.
Right.
It's like, okay,
That's all I got.
your own self needs more than that,
Right.
to move through. And, similarly to you, but on a different vein, I've, obviously everyone on some way, shape, or form has a biological father. My biological dad did not, he didn't raise me. I don't have a relationship with him.
Yeah.
But, his brother, my uncle, I had kind of started to build a relationship with him and was talking with him on a regular basis and this and this. And then one day we were talking about something and he defended my father's actions. He had a hard life, this and this, and like not even realizing how angry I still was about the whole situation. Like I haven't talked to him since. And it's been a few years now. But I told him, I said, I'm going to have to end this call. Like I know that's your brother, but like there's no excuse for, and it was, certain scenario.
Yeah.
But I haven't talked to him since and haven't been able to work through that anger. And, that's, something I got to deal with. But, but it was like one of those things where I honestly had thought like, I'm over it. Like I'm over it. It's this guy doesn't exist to me anymore. I'm just kind of over it. You're cool. We chop it up. We've got some stuff in common. And then that one act was like, whoa, stop the tape.
Yeah.
No.
Hold up.
We actually can't be friends anymore. Sorry. No longer besties. And gotta go. Bye. But, but that is grief that potentially I never fully worked through, and I'm still in, and I know the stages aren't linear, but like I've still got some anger around that I haven't pushed through. And so there's no bow, there's no bow on that relationship. And it's very, very interesting. That scenario was just kind of like, everything was cool. We were chopping it up, blah, 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 blah. Oh, well, whoa. Stop, record stops, and
Bring it back, bud.
Done. But it's like, you don't up, right?
Yeah, right.
You up. First you said, and then
you said.
Then you said,
"Oh man, that is crazy, man." Yeah, this grief is a good one. It's good, but it's bad. It's a heavy topic.
Yeah,
it's a good one. But yeah,
it's like, so what do you do?
What do I do personally?
I mean, what
or coping mechanisms.
Yeah, like what are some coping mechanisms to get through the whole thing?
One, like we were talking about, I definitely think having a tribe is key. Even if that's just a therapist. I think doing things that make you happy, meditation, journaling, you like to go to the gym, whatever just kind of brings you to that peaceful place. Journaling helps a lot for me, because sometimes maybe it's a conversation that I need to have. Maybe I'm just not ready to give it to someone yet, but I still need to get it out. So journaling helps a lot for me.
You can have that conversation with your journal.
Yeah.
If you're not ready to have it with the person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or people.
Yeah.
Good call.
Yep. It's perfect. And I think that, with your tribe, understanding the people that you can go to with things that you need to go to, because I don't think you can go to everybody with everything. It's just my personal belief.
Yeah.
Certain people for certain things. And I think the people that understand the story will give you what you need in the moment that you need it. Because sometimes, if I come and I'm crying and I'm boo-hooing about something, I probably don't need any advice. I probably just sit there and listen.
Want to be heard.
Yeah, just listen. And I think it's okay. We'll talk about this person in friendship breakups, but my previous friend, one of the things we did do with one another was when there was something, we would ask each other, do you want advice or do you just want me to listen? That's how we would start the conversation, so that right up front what it is I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then you just need me to listen, and that's just what I'll do. I'll just sit there and I'll listen, and when we're done, then we'll move on or we'll hang up. And the conversation's over. I think, having those kind of people and that kind of support, sometimes we find people that immediately want to help, and sometimes there just isn't a help or a fix in that moment. You just got to get it off
Yeah.
of you real quick.
And if you're not ready for that help anyways,
Mm-hmm.
any trotting down that path is just gonna,
Yeah.
it's not gonna be well received
No,
or well utilized,
not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, and it almost makes you, especially when you're deep into a grief, it makes you feel like you don't understand, or you don't care what I'm going through, and that may not be the case, but that will be the perception. You just don't
Yeah.
understand. So it's
Yeah,
better.
because someone's trying to help, but it's like that's not the kind of help I need right now.
Right.
And we have to be able to let people tell us what kind of help they need in that moment. We can't always be prescribing help to people. That's one thing my big sister Drea, she is really great at.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and we're also really good about, I just need to vent. Like, that's how the call will start, right? Or I need your advice. Or I think we've gotten better over the years of telling each other like what it is that we're looking for out of the conversation before we go. But
Yeah.
but even so, if we can't always be prescribing what
Yeah.
people need. We're not doctors.
Absolutely. Yeah. You got to help people in the way that they need help. I see a lot of social media posts where people are just like, "Oh, I'm gonna help so and so, and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that." I'm like, "Is that what they want?
Do they need that?
Is that
What
what they
makes
want?"
you think that's the path? Yeah.
I'm like, "Let them
Have
tell
you
you."
talked to them?
You're right.
Do you
People need
even
to
know
wait.
so and so?
Yeah, it's like you got to see what kind of help they want. But all
Mhm.
right, do you, boo? But yeah,
Do
that
you, boo?
definitely, a tribe, because you want to avoid the unhealthy coping mechanism, which you touched on earlier. The isolation, the drinking, um, what, whatever else that could come with that. You
Venting
don't.
to the wrong people.
There you go. People who don't have your best interest. And that's why I said there you can't tell your story to everyone. You have to
No.
really, I think, have that level of discernment to know who your people are. I think
Hmm.
that's important in most parts of life, but definitely in a grief story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you feel like you have a good support system and tribe for when you're experiencing those feelings that you don't like? Because I know you're not a
You
fan
know,
of feel.
yeah, I'm not a fan of feelings. I'm not a fan of sharing. Um, not a fan of opening up. I'm kind of like head down, push forward.
Yeah.
But I can say that that is on me.
Yeah.
As far as my tribe goes, I think I have a flipping A1 squad in my corner. From friends to family to um those are the two. Um but from
Period on that.
period, we're just gonna, there's not a third. But yeah, just a A1 squad. I've got people for every, if I'm willing to open up, I have people there who are willing to listen, who are willing to help, who are willing to try and get me out of my head.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've got folks who will pull up on me and be like, "Let's go to the river," or "Let's go, hey, I'm volunteering over here. You want to come?"
Yeah.
I've got people who are like, "I'll just, come through and sit with you, and you can, like, maybe put some deodorant on, but kind of, you can be however you are, whatever you're doing. I'll just sit." And I think that's one of the things, just a kind of a plug to some of my A1s too, but one of the things our parents used to always laugh, they'd be like, y'all just want to be around each other. Like, y'all will literally go through hell and high water to be in the same house to not talk to each other. And
Right.
it's like, well, yeah, like it's vicinity. Like,
Right.
I'll be doing my thing over here, you doing your thing
Right.
over here. You know, we might even be in different rooms,
Yeah.
but we would go through hell to get to one another, you know, and that's never stopped, you know, for years. So it's a
Nice.
it's a big deal. And then, you know, new friends like you know, where, you know, I can definitely say, you know, in scenarios, it probably wasn't easy to get me to open up and to say more than, no, everything's cool, you know, everything's good. Yeah. No, I'm so good. I'm so good. I'm about to do so many good things. Got such good stuff going on. It's all good.
Let me just tell the people, I was fighting for my life to try to get yours that I need to say.
You know any words but good? Yeah, no, it's cool.
We're good.
Everything's straight. It's straight. But you know, people who are willing to because, you know, friendship is work. You know, just like any relationship, friendship is work, and you have to be willing to have those tough conversations. You know, it's not necessarily to be combative or anything, but it's like, I care about you, and so we've got to go deeper than this, you know. You have to be willing to maybe get your feelings hurt a little bit, and understand that this person isn't intentionally hurting your feelings. It's just something that happened. So, you know, like, you know, my uncle, like, I didn't just, well, now, I don't know, maybe I should call him. But, you know, like, you know, it's like they didn't intentionally hurt your feelings. It's just something that happened. So you got to be able to, you know, to kind of talk through that, work through that. But yeah, so I definitely would say I've got an A1 squad. How about you?
I would say the same. Got my people I trust.
Locos pero locos.
Folks. Yeah, I keep the circle pretty tight. I think you probably the newest person to come in. Probably wrap it up for the next 7 years. That'll be
like, I'm telling you, man, new friends, like, I feel that, no new friends, and I don't mean it in a bad way. Like, I have acquaintances, I can kick it with the best of them, you know, I'm cool with a lot of people, but when it comes to like real deep bonds with people and like true like relationships, like, and here's the thing, I only have the capacity to, you know, like we just said earlier, relationships are work, and they take energy and emotion and time and to put into it. I just don't think you can have a million friends. Like, not real friends.
Real friends, yeah. I know I'm always, even though we're off track a little bit, but when we see those people, they're like, oh, I got 20 friends. Yeah, we're just so great. And I'm like, 20?
Really?
I'd be struggling at 5. Like, what? I'm like, 3 of them called me today. I'm like, I'm stressed out already. I 20. Oh, no. Never.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough.
When you were talking about the friend group, you didn't shout out the friend that was willing to put on Daisy Dukes and hang signs for you. I didn't really. I don't know why you didn't.
So y'all, I received an advertising support offer like no other recently. I have a friend who, y'all, you know, my friend is better than yours, because my friend offered to go calves out, thighs out on the street corner with flyers to help drum up some business for one of my businesses. And that's love. You know, that there ain't no other word around it. That's love. Drew, you're a real one. Calves out, thighs out. Daisy Dukes.
Everything. Like it was going down.
Stopping cars.
Come on over.
Get your house cleaned. The
Yeah.
other thing they'll probably be thinking we're doing a different kind of house
Yeah,
cleaning.
that's true. That's true. It's all right. We just gonna get her done.
Because you do get those people. Yeah. Those weirdos they call. Be like, can I choose
Well,
what they wear? What?
all right, people. That's enough of the Daisy Duke story. That's really it.
That's it.
That's really it. So we are
You
gonna.
brought it up.
I did.
You
Why?
you know I need scripting. I can't just be.
No, we're gonna go with it. It's all good. We love that. All right. So as far as the grief, we talked about what is grief today. The 5 stages of grief, the coping mechanisms, healthy, unhealthy coping mechanisms. I think that we just talked about support a little bit. Just to touch base on that just a little bit, be present. Don't try and fix it. When people pass away, please avoid. They're in a better place. With child loss, at least you still have. Those things don't help people. Just don't say. No. Just let people know you're here for them if they need you, and just kind of leave it there. There is no.
If you're unsure, go back to the toxic positivity episode and just kind of study that one. Also, when when you're going into a grief support scenario, because a lot of good advice over there.
Very intentional about what you say to people when they're experiencing losses in some type of way. And you may think it sounds good, but to them it's off the charts, and it will definitely put people, I think, in an isolated space and not want to be bothered when they hear certain things. So we have to be very cautious about that.
Maybe it would be helpful to share some of the things that are like a couple of validating sentences, because sometimes people really need their feelings to be validated, and like you said, they're in a better place, or at least you still have such and such, or this too shall pass. Like those things may feel to you like you're helping someone or supporting them in their grief, but really it's honestly dismissive. And instead saying something like, wow, that's hard. Like I can't even imagine what you're going through. I'm here for you. If you want to talk, if you want to sit, if you want to, watch movies or stare at the moon, like whatever, saying something like that is validating the feelings that they've just shared with you, as opposed to almost brushing it off, almost like, I don't have time for this. Kind of like you got to move on. So are there any like other kind of validating,
I would say those things, because for me, and I mean, everybody's experience is different, but even as I listen to people talk about grief and their experiences, I think you want to keep it short and sweet. I think those things are perfect. I'm here for you, basically, is the message that you want to give. Anything that kind of goes beyond that can really be misconstrued, in my opinion. You just, even, the I understands. Because if you never experienced whatever loss, you don't understand. If your mom didn't die, you don't understand what it feels like to not have your mom. You don't understand it. So just have to be very careful. So I think I'm here for you for whatever you need. And let it be.
Yeah, and even if you have experienced a similar loss, like I can think about when my granddaddy passed, I didn't want to hear, oh, when I lost my
right. You don't care
right now I'm dealing with my granddaddy, so I don't want to hear and maybe we'll get there, and it's not like negative, it's just let me experience my experience, and sometimes it's just be there.
Just be present. That's it. You don't always have to jump in with a Me Too story. And I think sometimes people just want to, they're trying to help by being relatable, but there's just a time and place for it. You have to let them have their moment. And all right, listeners, we'd love to hear from you. Question of the episode is, how has grief changed you, And how do you find hope in the midst of loss? We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your stories, your thoughts, your feelings. Shout us out on Instagram. You can drop some comments. You can send us an email. Use the hashtag #MeFirst. Remember that it is okay to not be okay.
Yes, it is.
All right, y'all. We're going to wrap this thing up.
We'll catch y'all on the next episode. Be easy.